You can go.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas? By Dr Seuss. But the Grinch... Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his height or shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grunchy frown at the warm-lighted windows below in the town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they were hanging their stockings, he snarled. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his grinchy fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, the noise. That's the one thing he hated. The noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare roast beast, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand with the Who's would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 50 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With his coat and his hat, I look just like Saint Nick. And all I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No! The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackling sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Galley up!" And the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Who's lay snooze in the tent. All their windows were dark. White snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first house in the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed. And he climbed to the roof, empty bags in haste. He slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first thing to go." Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present, pop guns and bicycles and roller skates, drums, checkboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums. He stuffed them in bags. The Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleared out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he sniffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," the Grinch, the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tray." And the Grinch grabbed the tray and started to shove when he heard a small sound like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a Who, little canty Woo-Hoo, who was not more than 2. And the Grinch has been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She started at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know how that Grinch was so smart and slick. He thought up a lie. He thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tray that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it back home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there. Then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child, and he patted her on the head, and he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Candy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tray up. Then the last thing he took was the log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old mile. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that was left in the house was a crumb that even was too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses. Leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was a quarter past dawn. All the Who's still a bed. All the Who's still a snooze. When he packed up his sleigh, packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, their wrappings, the tags, and tinsel, and the trimmings, and the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tippy top to dump it. Pooh-hoo the Who's, there was Grinch you wish lie him. We'll find out now that the Christmas isn't coming. We'll just wake up. I know just what they'll say, what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. Then the Who's in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sounded merry. It could be so, but it was merry, very. He started down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came! Somehow or another, it just came the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours until his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from the store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast.
Good job.